Hey, I'm back. Yeah, I must be in a kind of a chatty mood. And I thought while I'm dressed and everything, go ahead and make another video. And I got this topic from my last video I just did. When I brought up my grandmother. Now, this is going to be about my mammy. Oh, we didn't call her granny and we didn't call her mama. My mom went by mama. But, and, and my dad's mom went by mama. But my grandmother, my mom's mom, went by Mammy. Everybody called her Mammy. Even if they wasn't related to her, they called her Mammy. I mean, that's kind of what she was known by. And she she was just so special. And like I said in the other video, I never heard her say a bad thing about anybody. Never. She wasn't a gossipy person, and she was a hard worker. And she knew a lot of stuff about a lot of stuff. I mean, she always planted a garden, because she did have, 12 kids to raise on her own pretty much. And that's because my grandfather was never around, he'd take long trips, long expeditions, because he had another family over in another state with kids that my grandmother didn't know anything about. But why she put out with him as long as she did, and treating her that way, I don't know. I guess back then when you got married, and that was pretty much it. Old fashioned, you know. And she would go to church uh, and stuff, and but she was also really into nature, which we had in common, and animals, taking care of animals, raising a garden. And she knew secrets to raising a garden. I mean, she would, and she loved flowers. She was always planting, had flowers all over the place. But she would plant flowers around the garden. And I asked one time, why was that? And for one thing, it would attract the bees, so they could pollinate. And there was also, a flower that she would use that would ward off the bad insects that would damage, you know, the vegetables. And I don't know what that was. I don't remember. But anyway, she'd take care of her animals. She had dogs and cats and chickens and ducks, and usually raised a hot pig every year to slaughter for meat. And she always had a milk cow. And I used to always love, helping feed the chickens and the ducks, and even help slop the pig. And I love watching her milk the cow and all that kind of stuff. And chickens just fascinated me when I was a little girl. And so my mammy gave me one of her chickens. It was my chicken, and it was a little banny hen, and it was just such a pretty color, kind of a golden beigey color with brown on it. It seems like it had some like little black specks or something, and they're small chickens and they lay small eggs, and so she had a mixture, different kinds of chickens, and of course rooster, and there was usually ducks hanging around. She usually always lived. She never owned a house, but because she was poor, but she would rent houses, and everybody, liked renting to her because she was so neat and clean, and took care of the property. And it usually had an outside toilet. It usually had a um, a lot of them didn't. Well, I don't think any of them had like inside running water. There'd be a pump on the porch, goes to a well, and you'd have to, pump your water. And she usually lived next to a creek. And I remember one place that she had, it was next to a creek, but there was no water pump. But you had to walk down to the creek because next to the creek was a natural spring. So you take your bucket down there and, dip out and have spring water. And so anyway, and there was a big mountain next to this, place where she lived with the creek and the spring water. And we were there visiting, and there was this like mountain right on the other side of the creek. And so one day, me and my brother, we started climbing up this. My younger brother, the doctor, we started climbing up this mountainside, and we got up so high. I don't know if we was playing King of the Mountain or something. But anyway, I got shoved. He shoved me and knocked me down, and I started just rolling down this mountain. And I rolled all the way down till I hit the creek. And man, that hurt. I mean, that was a bad fall. That didn't turn out well. I remember that one. But anyway, I mean, sometimes my siblings, my brothers, they could be kind of harsh and mean to me. I forgive them, we were youngsters. Oh, but anyway, back to Mammy. Oh, and she was such a good cook. I mean, they ate a lot of like soup beans, and she'd fix soup beans and sliced fried taters in lard. I mean, oh, delicious the way she made them. And cornbread, and usually like sliced tomatoes with them. And even though she's poor, I mean, they ate okay. And they always had chicken. She, fried chicken, like at least once a week. And, we'd have, bacon and sausage. She made her own butter. And, she had one of these churns. And I used to help her make the butter. I'd churn till my arm would get so tired. But the butter was delicious, And she would always have extra milk. So she had these like, big jugs, milk jugs. And so she'd keep what she needed, and then she would sell, you know, milk, jugs of milk to neighbors that who didn't have cows, and so that gave her a little money that she would need. See, they didn't. I don't think back then they had like Social Security, and you had to earn your money. And I think she would do like maybe ironing for people, and so like she did like laundry for people, and but she was real meticulous. I mean, if you were going on a trip in the car, you better prepare early, because before she'll leave and get in the car to go where you need to be going, everything had to be just right. Everything had to be done and meticulous. I mean, you'd see her, sweeping the floor, sweeping the porch, on her way out. She was so funny that way. But I'll put some pictures in here, of my mammy and maybe my grandpa. and I've got some old ones. I think I have them, in a folder somewhere. And if not, I got, a few photographs over there. I'll take a snapshot of that, and because I like to share a little bit about, my family and my background, and just because. But anyway, she knew how. I mean, everything like about growing food and taking care of animals. She would. I mean, she was like a vet too. I mean, I remember one time her chicken got something wrong with it. It's crawl. I don't know. Maybe it had worms in it or something was making this chicken sick. And she operated on it. You know, she cut it open and, she fixed whatever was wrong and then sewed it back up. And, I think, like, her dog one time had a injured, injured leg. Was, she doctored that. And so she was part doctor, I guess, part vet too. And she was just multi-talented when it came to, you know, knowing how to do stuff, how to survive. I mean, she lived to be, in her mid 90s, and she had a few, surgeries, and there at the end, she had arthritis, really bad. She was bedridden, for a time, and suffered there at the end for a while. Her daughter, my aunt, uh, took care of her for a while, and then mom took care of her for a while. Mom had two people to take care of. She took care of Mammy, and she took care of her second husband, who had multiple sclerosis. And, he lived a lot longer than doctors gave him, probably over twice as long. And, he gradually deteriorated and got worse and worse and had to have, more and more care. Sometime, a nurse would have to come in a couple times a week when she got to where she couldn't, do certain things like, bathe him, like lift him, moving around, because she was getting old too, and getting worn down. So anyway, the and mom did, was good at doctoring, you know. I guess it runs in the family. Another thing that ran in my family was music. My dad could play any instrument that you can think of, and he had most of them. At least one of, sometimes two of a certain. Like had different guitars, mandolin, banjo. He could play a horn. He could play piano. He could play. I don't know of an instrument you could put in front of him that and he taught himself. You know, uh, he was an iron worker and welder. He was top rate welder. But anyway, and my two brothers play music and sings, and I played a little piano. I like piano, and and then drums. I had my brother's son was a terrific drummer, and so is my grandson. My son's son is a top rate drummer. And so, and I don't know if any of my uncles played. Yeah, I had a couple of uncles and some cousins that were, really good musicians. And but my dad could do anything. I mean, he was good at art. He was good at, taking a car apart, putting it together, building a house. I mean, I can't think of anything he didn't know how to do or couldn't do once he put his mind to doing it. So, um, anyway, but back to my mammy, and my mammy was quiet. I mean, I remember when I hang around with her. I mean, she didn't like talk a lot. I mean, I even seen her get down and cut the grass with a paring knife. You know, like do spots, do. And sometimes I made mistakes saying, "You need any help?" So she'd give me the knife, show me what to do, and then she'd go off and do the house, go do something else that needed to be done. And I'd be sitting there, cutting on that grass. But anyway, she was just such a good soul, and and was an amazing role model. I mean, and everybody in her community thought highly of her. I mean, everybody loved her. Everybody knew her. Um, I mean, I think the rent on her houses was usually like, $10, $15 a month. But back then, money went a long way. And there was a little like local uh, grocery store that I was related to him too. He was a relative. But he would sell the stuff that people in the community would buy, and he'd let you charge. I mean, if you didn't have the money on hand at the time, he had a book, and he'd write everything down in it, and what you owe, and when you could pay, you'd pay. I mean, that's the way it was, down there. Uh, it was, and the city. If you went into the city, you know, it wasn't a very big town. It was a small town, but there was like little communities, away from the city that you know people would gather, and so I mean, it was an interesting place. I remember going down there, and see, I was born and raised up, like southeastern Ohio. And one time well, mom and dad, I mean, mom would sometimes like leave my dad like once a year when school would go out. They'd, they'd split up for a week or two, and then eventually he'd come down and beg to her and, talk her into going back. And that's the way it was. I remember going down there one time, and school wasn't out yet. I mean, got enrolled in school. Uh, but anyway, I remember a time when, and my friends didn't know what pizza was. And I said, really? You don't know what pizza is? So, I think in the grocery store that they had, where you could Chef Boyardee, make your own pizza thing. I think I made pizza for them one time or something, but they really liked it. But the school I went to, now they would have lunch, cafeteria, but at lunchtime there was this cafe right across the street, and you could go over there and have your lunch. And so me and some of my friends, that's what we do. And I remember they had the best uh, chili cheese dogs, and I love those things. So I'd go over, and they weren't expensive, so I'd go over there and get me some um, chili cheese dogs for lunch. Man, they were good. And but anyway, don't know if I can think of anything else at the moment. I'll think of something after I close out the video that I should have added, but you get the drift. Uh, you know, that's, kind of a little bit about my mammy, my wonderful, wonderful mammy. And when she passed, I missed her. I'd go down there sometimes, and help with her. She had to be fed and everything. I wasn't any good at changing diapers, though. I'd have to get my mom to do it. I'm off when it comes to stuff like that. Excuse me. If somebody throws up, I'm going to throw up too. And then there's two messes to clean up. uh, on I just wouldn't have made a good nurse at all. I mean, that just wasn't my forte. Nope. But to try to help out in the way I could, when I could. And so, anyway, that's kind of about that. But I love you. Thanks for hanging in there. I ought to put in at the beginning, to watch a whole video. Sometimes I get good stuff in the last, sometimes in the middle, sometimes in the beginning. You just never gonna know what's gonna pop out of my noodle. But anyway, thanks for watching. I love you. Take care. And you know what to do. And just spread your light. Spread your love. And let's help make this world a better place. Oh, I had a thought too about something else. We ought to all stick together as seniors and create a seniors club or a senior gal gang, or everyone else can join in too. But just support, one another. I mean, there's not a whole lot of us, left, but we all have something to share, something to contribute still to this world of ours that is, going through some changes and some chaos and some insanity, and just, I don't like to talk about religion or politics, but this isn't so much about politics. It's more about just what's going on out there. And if you notice it, observe it, it's like, my glasses are crooked. It's like, wow, what's happening? And I just think that there's, a big breakdown coming, you know, perhaps even a crash. And, if you think about it too much, it'll scare you, you know. So I try to keep myself occupied. And I'm doing a pretty good job of it, but I still can't help but notice what's going on too, because I'm aware of everything that's happening, and I'm sure many of you are, most of you are, probably all of you are. It's hard not to see, and so uh, we so it's important that we come together. No matter what our perceptions are, our differences are, because we're more alike than we are different, and we need to come together. Not be uh, so divided, and be more tolerant and accepting of one another. And love overcomes fear. You know, try not to be fearful. Sometimes I find myself in that fearful mode, and that's not a good place to be. It's best to try to. I mean, you can't just be positive all the time. I mean, you have to be have your foot in reality, depending on what reality you happen to see, because people see things so different. I mean, what I see as reality might be different than somebody else's reality. I know, with me and my sister, we've been like totally opposite, so we can't even, discuss that because it can raise feathers, you know. But I guess what I'm trying to say is we need to let love overcome fear. And fear puts you in darkness. And that's not a place where you want to be. If you find yourself there, which you can, I mean, everybody can, anybody can, it's be aware of it, notice it, that that's where you are, and then try to get out of that, try to bring in the love, bring in the light, just overcome that fear. Because, fear wants to get hold of you. you know, Fear and hate is, kind of goes hand in hand, and and the distrust in, one another, and, the people in your community, people not in your community. I mean, it doesn't matter to me if somebody lives on the other side of the planet. You know, I want to, I want my light to shine and love to go out to everybody. Now, I don't have a love life, personal, that kind of relationship. I focus my love in the direction of, as much as I can, to everybody. No matter where you live, no matter what race, what color, what, culture, you know, it doesn't matter. I kind of enjoy diversity. I'm my grandmother, like the trees on mountains. How many different kinds of trees are there? How many different kinds of dogs and cats are there? How many different colors of animals are there? Apparently the creator likes diversity. And why we can have sometimes such uh, an adversity to diversity is mind-boggling. How many different kinds of flowers are there? I mean, think about it. The the world is full of diversity and so many beautiful things. And it's just like there's so many beautiful people out there. And it doesn't matter, what your belief system is, what their belief system is we all have something in common, and that's our humanity. So, thank you for watching. I better get off of here. I'm getting emotional. Okay. Love y'all. Bye. Subscribe and like. Thank you. Thanks for watching.